As we are running late, I'll try to be quick. Well, I'm Dan Dorell. I'm representing DGT, which are the initials of Dorell Got Methane. It's an international office based in Paris. We are from different cultures. One Japanese, one Lebanese, and one Italian, working all together on different scales projects since May 2006. So it's exactly 10 years that we are working now. We started working together actually 10 years ago when we won an international design competition for the Estonian National Museum, which is a very big cultural center of 34,000 square meters. And we've been working since then on it, and it's finishing in this moment. And it will open in September. But while working on this very long and very big project, we've been doing several very small-scale projects. And one of them is the housing residence in Oiso in Japan, which is a very small and very low-budget project that we just finished last year. So Oiso, it's a little town on the south of Yokohama, on the eastern coast of Japan. It's mainly a residential city of about 30,000 people, and it's in between the sea and the mountain, creating a particular climate that was appreciated for a very long time. And there are even traces in this village of housing from 5,000 years ago. So we've been approached by a client that was living in Tokyo, and he decided to move to this very particular place, and he bought the site that we see here with his house that he wanted to demolish, and he wanted to construct a house that he was saying should be a house that really belonged to this land and that should last for 100 years. So in the beginning it was a very simple brief that he asked us, but it was also very challenging. And we started to look around the character a bit of this area, and they came out some particular, the character, it's mainly given by the very green character of the residential area and the forest around it. The land itself, the ground, that have a very strong and dark color, and it's very visible because of the change in the levels of the ground, and many cuts in the ground that show this presence of the soil. The main material of the architecture in the zone is all in wood of different kind, architecture, fences, and all human constructions. And housing are mainly with pitched roof. So we started, as we do for all our projects, we started what we call the evolution wall. It's a way of working together and sharing ideas between the different persons that are working on the project. We're actually digging as if we were archaeologists in the identity of the place or of our client, looking for cultural traces or formal traces that we can use as a base for our design. So this is a process that's actually in evolution all the time. All these images are being grouped, moved, and little by little, this is giving a first character to the project. This is, of course, parallelly to all type of diagram and sketches that we are doing, but our main design tool, it's actually physical models that we are using as to test the space and the shapes of the building. And we tend to do many models, all different, one from the other. that eventually, a bit like in our evolution wall, arriving to very few solutions, and eventually to one solution that seems to be the base to carry on with. And here we see the first model of it. So the architecture of this house, it had to be a real Japanese house, a contemporary Japanese house, but it's coming out from the tradition. It's very much inspired by the traces of housing that are present in Oiso. As I said, there are traces of 5,000 years ago. From the Jomon period, there are traces of houses that have been built partially under the ground. The Yayoi period, which is the Iron Age in Japan, where the housing in this area were more on pilotis, raised from the floor. And the Edo period, between the 17th and 19th century, where most of the houses were merchants' houses with the ground level with as commercial activities, and the first floor was more living spaces. So we try really to shuffle all this and to see how we can make sense of it and make a contemporary building of the 21st century that contains all this history. In the same time, we have been looking at the traditional Japanese house plan, and a bit as it is in Europe. Also, the main character it's divided in the living space and the sleeping space. So we decided that we are going to split the building on 2 levels, and we created a central core that is spanning from one side to the other of the site, which is very, very narrow. And around this central core, we placed wings that were spanning between the core and the rounded edge of the site. Each of these volumes or of these elements was containing part of the program of the housing. Here we can see the first one, which is the entrance of the house, the kitchen, the bathroom with the staircase, and the traditional Japanese room that it's a bit like a living room, but it was the center or the main requirement of our client, that is a producer of traditional Japanese tea. And he wanted to make ceremonies of tea in the house. So all this is topped by a second floor, which is the sleeping area, which is completely divided from the bottom, and is really sitting on the different volume, bridging the space between them. The result of it, it's a ground floor that is partially recessed in the ground, and it's made mainly with the soil that we digged from the ground, and a top floor which is all made in wooden structure, wooden cladding, inside and outside. So the construction, after demolishing the building, we started to dig the ground of the site. As you can see, it's quite small and narrow, but we dig 1 meter of soil away, which is part of the tradition of the area, and this is mainly for giving to create cool atmosphere in the summer, thanks to the ground, and in the winter is working as an insulation material that in our case is double with the floor heating. While this excavation started, as it's an historical area, many archaeological repairs actually have been founded on the ground, parts of vases and different objects from different periods. And this was used as an inspiration for the choice of the colors and the textures of the different parts of the building. The site took about 1.5 years It was a site without really a contractor. It was all made with local artisans that worked mainly on traditional techniques. So it was a bit of an experiment. Each part was testing with the artisans to arrive to obtain the character that we wanted. Here, for example, we see the testing for the cladding material, which is made with the soil of the ground mixed with cement and with natural color pigments. Eventually, the darkest one was chosen, and this is the results from far away. As you can see, it's a very green area around it. Looking from closer, the building is actually sitting on a junction of two roads. You can see on the left, the main entrance, and as you can see, the building is actually very introverted. There are no windows and almost no opening on all the exterior part of the house to avoid to give some privacy to the home. And on the interior side of the site, it's actually very open with, on the top floor, a window that is stretching on all the length of the building, looking at the forest on the back and the interior part of the site, which is also the north part. So it's illuminating the whole interior of the first floor. The ground floor too is very open. It's almost as the interior and the exterior were one continuous element. Here we can see the entrance of the house. We are in one of the volumes, which is all white color walls with a concrete floor and wooden doors and fixed furniture. And when we continue in the building, in the central core, we're actually walking in between these elements that have the same character in the exterior and the interior. You can see that the material, it's the same inside and outside, and the space is actually closed by the first floor volume that creates a ceiling on this part and big glazing that are closing the voids between the volumes. So the space, actually in the in-between space that was somehow the circulation space, became also one of the most used part of the house. Which is in front of the kitchen. You can see it's completely open towards the outside, and the material again are here all in wood and the soil on the wall. The bathroom under the staircase, which is also white, is all the interiors of all the volumes. And the traditional Japanese room sitting in the end of the house with big glazing that can slide and open to create a connection, like in the traditional Japanese housing, between the exterior garden and the interior. So in the interior, of course, the floor, it's tatami. You can see here the table where the tea ceremony is done. And then we have a spiral staircase that go to the first floor, which is the living area. The walls, you can see, are left with this character to feel really the soil of the ground and the same material of the staircase, but in a different finishing. So while we go up in the first floor, we can see this duality and this meeting of the two very rough and solid soil, and the second floor, wood. That it's the material, even in the interior, that is covering all surfaces. We have the floor, the walls are covered with rounded wooden panels. All the framing, it's in wood. And behind the library, there is the main bed for the parents. It's actually 4 people house, young parents with 2 children that are sleeping on the other side. Here is the children area with a little staircase going up on the 2 beds and a little study area. As you can see on this floor, the view, it's one of the main elements, and the north light that is illuminating naturally the whole room. This big window is always serving to ventilate in the summer the house. You can open completely the facade, and a natural ventilation can be obtained in all the house. Seen from outside, you can see the volume that is sitting on top of the ground floor soils. This is the side without windows, and there is only a service door to access the roof terrace. So this house was finished about a year ago now, and it had an incredible success between the neighborhood and generally in the Japanese press. It was published all over the magazine and obtained many covers of architectural magazines. And this actually became an icon of Oiso, and it started to be used by the client not only as a house, but a place for work for the young tea company that he has. And the house itself started now to be as an icon or as a symbol, and graphically is used by the tea company that have been profiting from this success. So the client was, of course, very happy with the house, because his requirement was really to do a house that was for Oiso and not a house that is just built in Oiso. And he retained that this was finally achieved.